my programming friends. So welcome to another lesson on constructors and destructors. So you might be familiar with what are constructors, what are parameterized constructors, what are default constructors, and also what are copy constructors. So in this video, we are going to further develop on our argument of constructors, parameterized, defaults, and copy. So you might be thinking, why am I repeating these words, default, parameterized, copy again and again and again and again? That is because I want you to have them hacked in your programming manual. Okay, so now we'll be talking about default constructors in a little more detail. Default constructors, as you know, are the constructors which do not take any parameters and directly assign values to the variables of the class. So, what are we going to do in that case? Very simple. You have a program, for example, in which the user is not going to give you any of the values that you need to assign to your variables. In that case, is the case in which you are going to use your default constructors. Default constructors have various needs and requirements in our program because there can be several instances when the user is not giving you any value. But there can also be instances when you think that the user might give you some value and also might not give you some value. In those cases also default constructor is going to be used alongside your parameterized constructors. But this is a topic that I'll take more deeply in the constructor overloading part of this series. Okay, so now concentrating upon your default constructors. So default constructors are very, very important because they do not take any parameters. Also, default constructors can be used to initialize variables during the runtime. That is runtime initialization. Very easy. All you're going to do is that you're going to take x and y from the user. If the user gives you x and y, you're going to use your parameterized constructors. If not, then you're going to simply use the values that you have in your mind if the user is not going to be. For example, to further explain on this argument, I'm going to say that you have a class, say x, and you have some variables, say a and b, in the private section of the class, which you need to be initialized. So what you're going to do is that you need to, you might think that, it's good if the user gives me some values, like for example, you can take those values as x and y in your parameterized constructors, but staying focused on a default topic, I'm going to say that default constructor topic. I'm going to say on that is that there might be instances where this user is not giving you any value. So in that case, you might have some values along with you. For example, if the user is not giving me the value, I'm going to assign a as 1 and b as 2. So this is your values just in case the user does not give you any value. So this is the case where your default constructor is going to be used, and hence default constructor seems to be very important all of a sudden, and it is. Now going on to the parameterized constructors. Parameterized constructors, as you all know, is the constructor that needs some parameters to assign values to the variables of different classes, different members of the class. Okay, so for example, you have a class, say x, and you have a parameterized constructors of the same name, of course, x, and which is taking two parameters, that is an int variable and a float variable from your user itself. That is, for example, you have this code snippet where you are taking two values, that is an int and a float from your user, and then you are passing these values to your constructor, that is your parameterized constructor, which is going to assign these values to your a and b. So how can you actually define this parameterized constructor? That is, you can have two kinds of definition for your parameterized constructor, that is an implicit definition and an explicit. These are actually can also be called as definitions and can also be called as part of calling. Actually, it would be more precise to be calling it as a part of calling. It can be an implicit call or an explicit call. It's not a declaration but a call. Okay, so in an implicit call, all you're going to do is that you're not going to use the name of your class. You're simply going to call your class. How is that going to be done? See this following code snippet where we have this object 1 of class A, and we are assigning the values of the variables of this class A and B the values 0.1 and 1. So this is going to be your code snippet for an implicit call. Now you are having an explicit call, that is where you are also taking the name of a constructor into the count. So how is that going to be possible? Simple. A, OB1, see the code snippet, and now we are going to use the constructor name, that is the A, and then we are going to have the round brackets in which we are going to give us the values. So in this case we are having 0.2 and 1, which can be used in your code. Also now, another thing that comes into account is that how can explicit call be used for creating temporary copies? That means, not creating objects but passing value to the constructor and having the variables initialized. Very simple. See on to the following snippet. We have a class named sample, and this sample is not the class name but the constructor name. And this is passing two values 4 and 9 to your class for initializing the variables a and b by 4 and 9. But this is not creating any object, but simply initializing the variables of the class a and b as 4 and 9. So this is how you create temporary copies by using parameterized constructors. Also, as I have already told you about the runtime initialization of the objects, this will also be covered into your parameterized constructor itself. That is, for example, you have a class, say x, and you have a constructor also of the same name, of course, say x, which is taking two types of values. That is an integer value and a float value. Let's say it's having int a and int b as its parameters. Also, now it's going to take some value from the user. So this user is going to supply you with some values. These values are going to be supplied during the runtime. I repeat, during the runtime. That is not at the time of making the program, but when the program is running, execute. At that time, these values will be taken from the user. So this is called runtime initialization of your variables. Also, now going on to the third type of constructors, that is copy constructors. What is the actual use of copy constructors? Is that only used for just copying the initialized variables of one object into the object of the other? So actually I want to go into a bit more detail when it comes to copy constructor and explain you those parts once again. That is, it will actually copy the contents of one object into another object. So you can take it as, this very simple example here is that, for example, int. Int is a type. It's a data type. Also, any member of a class, say object 1, any object of the class, say object 1 or object 2, is also a data type. What kind of a data type? Of the data type of the class. So for example, we say that I want a data type of A. I'm not specifying any data type, like I'm not saying I want a data type of integer. I don't want a float data type. I just want a data type of A. Oh, very simple question for a programmer. He will just be very clever and create a class with the name of A and create an object of A, and that object will be of the type A. So I think that gets into your head. So what does a copy constructor simply do? It copies one type of object into another. Very simple. This copy constructor is also going to be called whenever you call any function by value. For that matter, any function. So let's take a function afunc, and we are calling this afunc with values. So first we define our afunc. Let's say that the definition of my afunc is going to be void afunc, and this afunc is taking a type of value of sample. So when you have the data type is sample, what do you think? Okay, sample is a class, and any object of this class is going to be of the data type sample. Simple. all you're going to do is that you're going to create an object of the class sample ob1, and you're going to pass ob1 in your afunc because it's taking a data type of sample. So afunc sample is going afunc ob1 is going to have the program running. Very simple. Also, this copy constructor is going to be called whenever you are trying and initializing, whenever you're trying and initializing the objects, initializing the variables with the help of a function. So, for example, look on to this code snippet. That is where afunc is equals to ob1. That means when this function is going to have be running, that is after which you're going to have your ob1. So in this case, the values of that are obtained after this afunc is completed is going to be first copied and then transferred on to ob1. Very simple again. Now there is this one complex thing that comes in. What if a silly child or a child that is not careful, a programmer I must say, is not careful and forgets the ampersand sign, that is not calling the constructor by reference. The constructor, that is our copy constructor by reference, and instead tends to call the copy constructor by value. What will happen? As I have already told you that whenever a copy constructor, whenever a function is given a value is called by value, copy constructor tends to come into the picture. So of course you are passing some values to your copy constructor by value. So copy constructor is going to come in, make a copy. Now this copy is again being called by the copy constructor by value. Again the copy constructor will come in, and now again it will create a copy. Now this copy is again being copied, is being called by the copy constructor by value. Again the copy constructor will come in, and this process is going to repeat and repeat itself. So a silly mistake is equals to a lot of trouble in C++. So the compiler simply comes in and tells you that we are running out of memory and it's yeah. So basically what I need to say is here is that a copy constructor can only be called by reference. So that's all about the copy constructor, the default constructor, and the parameterized constructor. If you want to know more about this chapter, then you can see my other videos as well. In the other video, I'm going to discuss about a very important and interesting concept, that is constructor overload.